Hello, hello. JJ DiGeronimo here with Together We Seek podcast. I love these live sessions because you get to meet some of the practitioners, healers, light
Mhm.
workers, and even mystics that are in my network and that are doing amazing work to help us uncover our gifts and align with the higher frequency. And Suzy Schaak is no different. Suzy has had decades of experience really uncovering gifts of her own as well as gifts of others. And she's included this in one of her new books. So, Suzy, I'm so excited that you've joined us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, so exciting. So, how did you know you were a clairvoyant healer?
Well, the clairvoyant gift started when I was a little girl. My first experience, I remember my neighbor tragically was he was out jogging and he had been hit by a car and he passed away. So it was in the wintertime, and this was my first experience, I would say. I used to like to go and lay out in the snow at night and just look up at the stars. And this particular night, his family had gathered, because it was, I think, the day prior. And as I was observing the house and just thinking about how the family must be feeling, this extraordinary ray of light came down over the house, and this voice came in and it just said, they are guiding your neighbor in to just take in the love and the light from his family members. So that's how it began. And throughout my childhood and even to today, I have this internal voice that calls me my child and then gives me all sorts of beautiful, loving wisdom. So that's how it began. And it just kind of grew and grew throughout my life. And after the birth of my first daughter, the gifts came in pretty strongly. So I receive messages from the other side. I have impressions. I was getting visitations almost every night after the birth of my first daughter. And so I kind of honed in on those gifts and had a yoga studio. And I was trying to rent out this space. And my internal voice said, it's time for you to start your healing. And so that's really how my healing ministry began. And my dad had a really lovely part in that as well. My dad,
So interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, well, one, I want to ask you, like, what made you not be afraid? But before I do that, I just want to say that I'm in a channeling class. I've been taking channeling for a couple of years
Mhm.
now, and some people get the gift of saying, my love, my dear,
Mhm.
my star child. So just the fact that you've echoed that's how they speak to you, is
Yeah.
just so beautiful. So just recognizing the love and light that comes through you is so powerful. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, how were you not afraid? And so, how does your dad fit into all this?
So my dad was diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and walking him through that process, it was, by the time he was in hospice, I was the one who kind of took the night shift. So I would sit with him in his hospital bed, and he lost his ability to speak, a couple years prior. But that doesn't mean that he didn't try to talk. And he would just go on and on and on. And he would look at me to kind of ask, well, what do you think? And I had no idea what he said. And this internal voice said, put your hand on his heart and your other one on yours. And all of a sudden, I could understand everything he was trying to say. It was like this beautiful soul conversation. And so that's what I use in the healing room.
Mm.
I have my clients on the table, I do a grounding with them, and then I'm just awakened to their soul and what their soul is speaking. And it's just this beautiful, profound experience every time. But I really feel like my dad is the one who guided me there.
Who taught you? Who taught
Mm-hmm.
you how to connect, how to
Mm-hmm.
chord, like how to really
Mm-hmm.
just channel the messages? And as a child, a lot of people that I've interviewed, a lot of light workers, healers, and mystics that I've interviewed have closed that off as a
Yeah.
child because
Mm-hmm.
of somebody in their home or
Mm-hmm.
teacher. What allowed you or what empowered you to keep that channel open?
Um, it was so strong. There was there was no turning it off. And that's what I say, after the birth of my first daughter, I was getting visitations from the other side every single night. and it would come in like this heat over my body, and I would wake up and there would be this vibration of light, and then it would turn into a form. And the imagery that I was seeing was not always pleasant. Like for many of the nights, it was like gargoyles would be flying at me, and um, kind of disturbing creatures. And so I was seeking help from anyone who could help me kind of make sense of it. And again, then my internal voice said, these are souls that have crossed but have not ascended. And the light that you bring in when you pray, they're attracted to that and they know that you can see them. And so they said, all you need to do is tell them to go to the light. And then the angels come in and they receive them. And so I did that. And the very first night, it was almost like I said, it was kind of neon colors to begin with. And I said, you just need to go to the light and they will receive you. And it turned into kind of like a beautiful cloud, and up it went. And I did that night after night after night. And that's really, I think, how I could not have it come towards me, if that makes sense. I couldn't turn it off. Well, I
Right, you
suppose
were a
I could turn it
bridge.
off if I wasn't paying attention, but it's very difficult to not pay attention to that.
And you've gathered, like, I mean, now you've been doing this for decades with
Yeah.
people, both like physical humans and obviously
Yes.
people that come to you in
Hmm.
the dead of the night. But you talk a lot about bridging your body wisdom with your divine wisdom. What does that mean to you?
So what that means is, we came into form, in the form of human beings, and our divine wisdom speaks to us through our body in different communications, right? So, like when you get chills when something's really exciting, or when you get that gut feeling, that is your body's wisdom expressing, um, trying to communicate something to us. And if we don't listen, it gets louder and it gets louder and it gets louder until the point where it goes from an ease to a dis-ease. And so that's what I try to communicate to my clients, whether they are my healing clients or my yoga clients. Listen to your body, get grounded in your body, and hear what it has to say, because that is your soul speaking through your physical experience. So that's your body's wisdom. And then divine wisdom is spirit and your soul communicating in different ways as well.
So how do you even start bridging that?
It bridges in the heart center, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
the heart center only knows love, and all things are communicated through love. And so that's how I find the truth in what my body is trying to communicate. Like, for example, when my dad passed away from ALS, I was in probably the deepest grief. I can't even describe that. And I had an experience where he passed away in May, and it was Christmas, and we went sledding. And I was going down the hill with my two girls. I was in a family sled, and we hit a little bump, and I broke my sacrum. And when you think about your body's wisdom and losing a parent, and like I said, my dad was everything to me. That's a foundational loss. And it was my foundation that finally cracked open. And I knew that I had some work to do with my grief,
Mm.
and healing that, and finding grace for the grief that I was feeling, and finding a way through the grief into where I am now. I have such gratitude for the experience of knowing him
Mhm.
rather than the grief of his loss, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But my body's wisdom was saying, you're holding on too tight and you need to release this.
Those
And
messages are so magical.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I had held energy in my right hip for a long time, so much so
yeah,
that they said I had to get surgery. And I was like, I am bound and determined to heal myself. And so I
right.
did all kinds of things. But eventually, I literally flew off a Segway and hit a curb. And it was so traumatic to my hip, but I feel like it was the universe's way for just kicking it out.
Yeah.
and making me really heal at a level that I wasn't participating at. So then I started cold
Mhm.
plunging and acupuncture, and my hip is great now. My hip is great now, but it was like the universe just kicked me into gear of how to heal in a new way.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was doing for me. It was saying you're not allowing this out, and if you don't, it's going to manifest into something you don't want. So
Mm.
that was my wake up call, and I went and I did some somatic yoga, and during this experience, it was really profound. It was kind of an out of body experience, and she put me in this restorative pose. We did some somatics, and then she put me in a restorative pose. She left the room, and I went into this altered state where I was back on the sledding hill again. And the first time around, when I hit the bump, my family came around and I said, "Nobody touched me because I think I broke something." During this experience, what came out of my mouth was, "Nobody touched me. Can't you see I'm broken?" And there was a big difference there. But it really made me wake up and say, "All right, you've got to do more work rather than stuffing it down. You get to do more work on this and release it from your body."
I so appreciate that because I feel like even the ones sometimes when you're gifted, you have to do more work. When you're more open to the divine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love this because I feel like a lot of us feel our aches and pains and don't connect it to anything other than like, I need to go to the doctors, not I need to like figure out why this is
Hmm.
bothering me in this way and what the stories are tied to that and what energy I'm holding there.
Yeah. And, I have to say, I see a pattern of this in the healing room. When I have clients who are managing breast cancer, a lot of times there's a correlation between their offering more than they can afford to give. And so we work on finding balance of giving and receiving as they're doing their healing work with their breast cancer.
So you see a correlation for breast cancer connected with I'm giving more than I have to give. I'm giving more of myself than is available to give.
Than I can afford to give. And looking at those
Mm,
patterns of why are you doing that and what is lacking in your life, or what are you trying to mask or make up for.
that is profound. That is profound. And really the basis for your book. So your book that I've been checking out is Standing in Your Truth, and you have 7 sacred truths that you cover in this book. So
Mhm.
I'm just curious, like how did you boil it down to 7? Did you have more to put in there? Tell us a little bit how you got to the number 7.
Well, stand in your truth means to live in your purest alignment with your soul and its divine inner wisdom. And that is something that I talk about with so many of my clients when they are out of alignment. And when we find this alignment, we feel grounded and we feel powerful and we feel safe and we feel loved. Um, but most of all, we're connected to kind of this universal life force that allows us to manifest anything. And the 7 sacred truths are your roadmap, and they align with the 7 energy centers.
Mm,
And so it's like divine manifestation, divine rebirth, divine will, divine love, divine transformation, divine wisdom, and divine light. Those are the 7 sacred truths. And when you find yourself out of alignment, each one is going to give you a nudge in a different way. And the lessons that you're learning will give you a nudge again in a different way. And in the book, I give examples, like I explain the sacred truth, the spiritual component to it. And then it's a teaching memoir. So I give experiences from my own life when I found myself out of alignment, and the beautiful gifts and miracles that happened when I found my way back. And, the life lessons may be different, or my experiences may be different, but the life lessons are universal. And so that's kind of how I came up with the sacred truths. And like I said, they're a roadmap. So I give my experience, I give the gift and healing. And then it was really in 2020 where I put all of this together. I started channeling Divine Mother. And I had a very, very traumatic year in 2020, and well beyond COVID. There were things, and I write about it in the book in one of the chapters. So I spent hours and hours and hours forest walking. And I started channeling Divine Mother, and she kind of helped me put together um, the outline for it. And so at the end of each chapter, there is Divine Mother Speaks. So there's her message that goes along with each chapter. And then there's help and healing suggestions, there's journal questions. And the way I really kind of bridge the body's wisdom with the divine wisdom, I offer a yoga class that goes with each of the sacred truths and a meditation that goes along with each sacred truths. And I believe your body's wisdom comes in so beautifully when you're practicing yoga and you're linking breath and movement and stillness. You become grounded and you can really hear the wisdom of your body. And then in the meditation, you're going completely internal and you can listen to that beautiful divine wisdom that comes forward as well.
Hmm. That is so powerful. I don't see a lot of books that have the chapter, the yoga, and the meditation. I mean, to me, that seems like you could break out any one of those chapters for any of your clients or
Yeah.
people with particular, sacral issues, heart issues, throat issues, ego issues, or and beyond.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I just
Mm.
re-recorded them. So audio was not very good. So the new recordings will be up in another couple of weeks.
That is beautiful. And I see right now you can buy it on Kindle,
Mm-hmm.
softcover and hardcover. So you
Mm-hmm.
read it and then you participate in the videos that you provide.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And there's a link
Mm.
to that at the end of each chapter. So um, to me, again, I'm very physical in my body, and if I can integrate it into my body, I can understand the truth, if that makes sense. Um, and I I love yoga for that reason, because it integrates breath and movement, and breath is a vehicle for divine light to move into the body. And when you can hold it and then move with it, it's just really, really powerful.
And so since you've published the book, which has been about a year now,
Mhm.
what has come true for you?
What has come true for me?
Where do you
Um,
feel now being called or the messages you're receiving? Have they shifted?
the messages have come in even more powerfully. And like I said, when I was doing all of the forest walks, the biggest message that I was receiving from Divine Mother was, we have got to pause, and that was, if you can look at COVID as a gift, that was the gift of COVID, is that everything went silent. Um, and we, or at least I, really went internal during that year. And that's what she's asking for us to do, because we're such an action-based society, and doing and fixing, and um, we just seem to be getting in each other's way. So what she was expressing so strongly was um, more feminine aspects: pause, listen, nurture, offer yourself compassion, offer yourself love. And when you can do that for yourself, you can offer it to other people as well. um, and that is a way for us to come together and co-create something new and something beautiful. And the other message that she was offering was, by doing that, you raise your own vibration. And when we raise our vibration, it brings everybody up, it pulls everyone up. And that is a
I
message for
love
light
that.
workers, and for all light workers, to share with others.
I love that. I love that. I talk a lot about frequency, and I
Mm-hmm.
really have seen that firsthand. When you really work to raise your frequency, like what you see and what you experience
Yeah,
shifts too.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
Um, and it was very loving and very powerful at the same time as she was expressing this.
Mm. Well, that is such a beautiful message. I love the work that you're doing. I
Thank
all the
you.
links are below, your book, your Instagram, your website, everything is below. And
Mhm.
Susie, what is on the horizon for you? Where can people connect with you live?
I am working on a virtual workshop, and I will also be doing probably a retreat based on the book because it is laid out beautifully for people to come together and work through some of these things together in union. So I will have a virtual workshop up soon, and then I'll have a retreat posted on my website as well. But it's really, gosh, this just feels like one of the greatest works of my life is helping people elevate their vibration and heal through the different sacred truths.
Well, I hope you keep us posted. I'm going to give you a
Mhm.
link to include it in my group, Together We Seek. And I just
Love
want to
it.
thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so very much for having me. This was really lovely. I appreciate it.
Oh, Susie, I really appreciate your work. Hopefully, the listeners will check out your book and check
Hmm.
you out, maybe join a virtual retreat. And for
Hmm.
those of you that are listening Audible, and for those of you that are listening online or through podcasts, hopefully you'll join us in the future on our YouTube channel so you can meet the practitioners face to face or comment on some of the things that we're talking about live. So, Susie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.